Welcome, Eco Explorers. Today we're going to talk about the third R in our 3 R's for conservation, which is recycling. And it's important to remember before we talk about recycling that it is third or last for a reason. It's so much more impactful in a positive way to our environment if we are able to reduce the amount of waste that we produce in the first place. If we can't reduce, then we reuse what we are able to, and then only last do we get to the recycling part of the 3 R's. And that's what we're going to focus a lot on today. But first I want to go a little bit into the history as why it's so complicated as far as what we recycle and how things get recycled. And that's because up until 2018, we would send all our recyclable materials overseas to China mostly and to other undeveloped countries. And then finally China said enough and said, we're not taking any more of your garbage. Thank you very much. You need to take care of it on your own. And so wisely did most of the other countries that we were sending all of our recycling to, which left us to have to figure out what to do with our own garbage, which, you know, is ended up being a good thing because it made us think a lot more critically about solutions when we had to deal with it right in front of us. When we were sending it away and we didn't have to deal with it, it just disappeared magically. It was a lot easier to forget about all those negative impacts that our waste was having on our environment. But now we need to deal with it. And up until recent times, the federal government, which consists of the president, the Congress, and the Supreme Court, we haven't had any real leadership from our federal government as far as what we should be recycling and how recycled materials should be labeled and what should go where and how that should work. There hasn't been a lot of direction. There haven't been any real meaningful laws. And what's happened with that is each company, each place, each state, all those entities have had to try to figure out how to make recycling work for them, which has led to a lot of different ways of managing our recycling. There is one thing that everybody agrees with, and that is that one of the big reasons China pushed it away is A, it was polluting their land, but another was that what we were sending was too contaminated. And when something is contaminated, it means it has things in it that aren't supposed to be there. So when we would send our waste away, we would send a food container and it would have a bunch of food left over in it, and that would contaminate the recycling and make it so that they couldn't recycle the plastic. So all of the companies and states that have tried to figure out what to recycle agree that you need to clean out all of those contaminants. So if you're going to recycle bleach, it needs to be the container, it needs to be in an empty, clean container. This label that's made of something other than the plastic in the lid needs to come off. If it is a food container, anything that's inside of it, like these little plasticky things that come, need to be taken out, and especially all of the food needs to be scraped out. And after it's scraped out, here in California, we are also trying to conserve our water because we've been in a drought ever since I was a little girl living in California. Water has been an issue. So cleaning out our plastic can lead to even more waste because we're wasting our water. So you want to get a spatula and clean things out as much as you can that way, right? And then what I do is I reuse the water that I use in my dishes and I put a little stopper in the sink, and I use that reused water that is too dirty to use for other things to clean the rest of the food stuff out of my recycling before I put it in the recycling container. So everyone pretty much agrees with that if something is really dirty, if you have a to-go box and it's really dirty, but the container's recyclable, it can't be recycled because it's so dirty with food scraps. If you have a cardboard box that had an eggs carton in it, if it's clean, that's great. But if it has old eggshells stuck in it, it can't be recycled because it's contaminated. Oftentimes people will throw their pizza cardboard from their pizza boxes into the recycling because the cardboard most certainly is recyclable, but all that cheese and the leftover food isn't. So it's very important to get your spatula, clean that stuff out, get those contaminants out so that it can be recyclable. If you're not willing to do that, you need to put it in the garbage because it's just creating more waste, more confusion, and more hard work for those people who really help us on the recycling line to try and put things where they're supposed to go. So here in Monterey, every place is going to be a little bit different, but in Monterey County in California where I live, they have said that they will accept 3 types of plastics. They'll accept plastics that are number 1 plastic. So plastics come in a variety of different forms. There isn't just one plastic that, oh, all plastic's recyclable, I could just put it in the garbage. There's lots of different types of plastic, and you can only remake that plastic into its same type plastic. So if in Monterey they take number 1 plastic, and that would be all of these types of containers. And how you know if it's number 1 or not is you look for the little recycle symbol that I have here, the arrows, and in the middle of those arrows will be a number. And for all of these, I've already looked, all of these, even though they don't quite look the same, they're all the same type of plastic. They're all number 1 plastics, all of these. So all of these can be recycled. But first, I need to take out all of the things that are going to contaminate them. So this label needs to go. So I'm going to take that off. I've already emptied out all of the food and the juice. I need to take off the lids because if you haven't noticed, I want you to look the next time. The lids normally don't have a number on them because they're normally not recyclable. If you're not sure, you can always put these in recycling, but make sure you take them off of the lid. But most of them can't be. And what we do at my house is we'll take these and we make a little pile and we might do little art projects with those lids. But we need to make sure all of those lids are off before we put our plastics in. And this is kind of tricky. This plastic it has a little number. It says it's recyclable. So I'm going to put that in my darker colors. I'm going to talk about that here in a second. The darker colors mean something. But my main point is to take off the lids. And now I can recycle these things because these all are recyclable. These, Monterey will also take number 5. These are all number 5 types of plastic. This is Tupperware, so I'm going to reuse this hundreds of times. But when I can't anymore, this is also recyclable. I'm going to make sure I take off my lid because as you can see, it's a different color and it's probably a different type. So I want to make sure that I separate those things. Also, there's number 2 plastic. So Monterey takes number 1 plastics. It also takes number 2 plastics. So all your milk jugs, this lid, right, is a number 2. I've looked, it has a number 2 on it, so I can recycle that because it's a little bit bigger and it has its number on it. If it didn't have its number on it, I probably wouldn't, but that's up to your family. And it gets really tricky when you get into dark colors. So this black plastic says that it's recyclable because it's number 5. And in Monterey, we can recycle number 1s, number 2s, and number 5 plastics. But it's black, and like this is dark brown. And when they're really dark colors like this, some facilities can recycle them, but most can't because it changes the color of the plastic and makes it so it's no longer desirable. So as you can see, it gets really complicated really fast. So even though this is number 5, I can't recycle, I shouldn't put it in the recycling container. It's actually garbage because it's a black or a really super dark color. Same thing with this. It says it's a number 2 plastic, but it's really dark, so I can't put it in recycling. This, the lid, I know isn't because it's really dark. This is actually number 7 plastic, so I can't recycle that here in Monterey anymore. We used to be able to, but not anymore, because they had to, like I said, they had to get really a lot smarter about what they're able to recycle when China said, no more, we're not taking any more. Now here's where it gets tricky, as if it wasn't already tricky. This water bottle is a #1 plastic, and it says #1 on it. So I know I can recycle this. This water bottle has a recycling symbol on it, which is not a regulated symbol, which means if it's not regulated, it means that there's no law saying what you can or cannot do with it, what it means. So I don't know what kind of plastic this is. That symbol might mean that it's made from recycled material. It might mean that it is recyclable, but we don't know what number it is. So for the most part, it's pretty much just garbage. I can take the lid off and still put it in recycling and have faith that the people who work on the recycling line will know what kind of plastic and know what to do with it, which is what I would recommend doing. But I think it really highlights the importance of not using water bottles, of always using reusable drink containers, so that we just don't have these single-use plastics going into our recycling to begin with. They just really shouldn't. It's silly. It's ridiculous. So there's that. Now, pins are made of plastic. Toothbrushes are made of plastic. Straws, there's lots of things made of plastic. But if they don't have a #1, a #2, or a #5 in the middle of a recycling symbol, they are not recyclable here in Monterey. Now, some schools, like here at Robert Dam, will have a special container where you can put your used pens, and they have a special place that they can send those to be recycled. But if you don't have something like that, or don't know where to go to put those in that special place to get sent to this special facility, then these should not go in your recycling container here in Monterey. Where you live, it says different, then of course that's going to change. But most places are going to say no to these things unless you have a very special container. Another thing most places used to take but don't anymore is plastic bags. The bane of our existence. Plastic bags. Plastic, 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 everywhere plastic. All of our food comes in plastic. It comes wrapped in plastic. We'll have cardboard and we'll wrap it in plastic. And all of that is not recyclable. Do not put it in your recycling bin. It just clogs up the works. They cannot use it. They don't have the facilities. Most places don't have the facilities to recycle plastic bags anymore. A lot of people will put their recycling in a plastic bag and then wrap it up and put that in recycling. Well, the plastic bag isn't recyclable. None of these thin plastics, none of them can you put in your recycling, especially here in Monterey for sure. But what you can do is like, well, this is so much waste, is you can put all those plastic bags in one plastic bag, right? Save those up, and there's lots of different grocery stores in particular, but like Target sometimes will do this, where they will have a special container for your plastic bags because they have a special place that they can send it off to, kind of like the special place for the pins that gets sent off to. So there are places you can take those things, and that's what Miss Carrie does, because it just seems like so much waste. But first I try to reduce the amount by using my reusable bags, right? So another thing that cannot be recycled is the waxy milk cartons, or the waxy paper. Those can't be recycled then here in Monterey County. But all these cardboards, like they're your cereal boxes, your toilet paper rolls, I've got a macaroni and cheese, your egg containers, as long as they're clean, all of those paper products can all go into the recycling. And those are one of the things that paper's really easy to recycle. And as long as it's not contaminated, as long as it doesn't have tape and staples and clips and food, as long as it doesn't have any of that stuff on it, it can be recycled, and it saves millions and millions of trees. So it's very important for us to recycle our paper as long as it doesn't have this wax on it. So all of our newspaper can go into recycling. All of our junk mail can go into recycling. All of our paper bags can all go into recycling. So it's important to do that, but not paper towels. This thin stuff that is made to dissolve and quickly in water, paper towels and tissues, none of that. Please don't put that in recycling. It just gums up the work and makes it so that other things can't be recycled as well. So do not put paper towels or tissue in there, but most other paper, as long as it's not contaminated, can be put in there. All of your aluminum foil, as long as the contaminations have been taken out, can be put in there. All of your glass, so here's a glass jar with a metal lid. I'm going to take off the lid, make sure that the container is clean by using my reused water. And this metal, all these little metal things, your tin cans that your soups come in, all of these little metal containers, they all can be recycled. You can put those in your recycling bins. Now with glass, like this is glass, and all glass can be recycled, but if it's a vase or something larger, like a plate, those really need to be donated to either Goodwill, or here in Monterey we have our Last Chance Mercantile. All those things can be reused, so you don't want to put them in recycling. If at our waste management facility they decide that it can't be reused, they can make that choice. But these big things, we really want to give them a second life. Like this is metal, right? So technically it is recyclable because it's a metal bench, but I can more likely reuse that. And it's also called scrap metal when it's bigger like this. So those things really need to be reused or taken to a special place at Waste Management here in Monterey. I'll have, here in the garden, I'll end up with a lot of scrap metal like this. I just have a little place, I just collect it, and then I take it and I put it in its special little place because I know it can't go into the recycle. It's not supposed to go in the recycling bin. And there's lots of other things. I will have an attachment for Monterey of all of the things that cannot go in there. Like hoses can't go in there. And it's important, and clothes really needs to be donated. Anything cloth doesn't go in there. Batteries are a hazard. They give off really dangerous chemicals. So those need to be recycled in a very specific container that's separate from your normal recycling. I will have these as attachments for you to look at so you can see the specific things that here in Monterey can be recycled. And every place is going to have this. If you look at your waste management facility, which is where all of our garbage goes, it's also where our landfill is for the things that we can't recycle. They go there. All of our yard waste goes there to be composted, which is awesome here in Monterey that we have that. So that is a very complicated answer to what can we recycle here in Monterey. Your Eco Challenge is to help your parents with the plastic bags not being recyclable. That's one of the big things that I see in recycling containers a lot that should not be there, because we used to be able to just a couple years ago until China said no thank you. So remind your family members that paper towels, if you just try to keep it really simple, no paper towels, no plastic bags, and all of our glass, metal, plastics 1, 2, and 5 can all go in the recycling. So that's your Eco Challenge. Just try to educate your family members and your friends, and we can make this world a better place together. Thank you, Eco Explorers. Bye-bye.